Okay. It's early Sunday morning. Having slept at my grandparents' house the night before, I'm off to church with my grandmother. I'm nearly 5 years old, and as we enter, I'm in awe. Multiple stained glass windows line either side of the walls as I marvel at the way the light pours in and fills the space with a kaleidoscope of colors. The smell of frankincense fills the room as the priest speaks the Mass entirely in Polish. And though I do not understand a word of what he says, I feel it deeply. My heart bursts open wide, and I'm moved to tears. As I watch my grandmother kneeling to pray, I also become confused. The night before, she caught me speaking to a spirit that I could see in her house, and she made it very clear to me that it was unsafe to do this. As I watched her kneeling to pray, I couldn't understand why her way of speaking to spirit was any different or safer from mine. I would also watch my grandmother take her prayers to her garden, which made up her entire backyard. The yard itself was encased in a single row of cedars all the way around it. She was very proud of them, saying that they offered us protection and a connection to our ancestors. After Sunday night family dinners, I would watch my grandmother sit on a bench at the edge of this garden, filled with gratitude as she prayed and honored the earth. It was very clear to me that her time in this garden was just as sacred as her time at church. I understood this deep connection to the earth as a highly sensitive soul. I always felt safest there, held among the elements. Growing up, I would feel things intensely and continue to see spirit, but I would learn to speak of it less and less. I can remember seeing spirit in the corner of my bedroom at night, only to get into trouble if I screamed because it scared me. Sometimes I would have bad feelings, and I would be told that I worried too much, even if that bad feeling turned out to be true. So at the age of 16, when my first grandparent passed away, and he came through for me, asking me to tell the others that he made it safely, I didn't. I didn't want to be made fun of or get into trouble, so I learned to stuff it all into a box. I then did everything I could to be more like everyone else around me, until one day, I wasn't given a choice anymore. Something so big happened that everything I was trying to hide for more than 30 years came spilling out of me. I'm 5 months pregnant with my second son. It's been a challenging pregnancy, so I'm off to a healer for an appointment. As soon as I lay down on the table, a voice inside of me says, "Tell her to push." We both panic. It's too soon for the baby, so we convince my body to hit pause, and I tuck away that message neatly into the box. I'm 7 months pregnant when I read a heartbreaking story in the local newspaper about a man who had just lost his wife in childbirth and was now left with 2 young children soon to be the same age as mine. Convinced it's a premonition, I feel sick to my stomach. My husband proceeds to tell me all the logical reasons the story would not be ours, and I try to tuck away any worry I have into that box. I'm 1 week overdue when I go into labor. As evening turns to morning, my care is transferred. Before the doctor even walks into the room, I have such a bad feeling. My body immediately reacts to her energy, and she tells us to do a C-section, saying the baby will get stuck if I push. I watch for my midwife's reaction, and she can no longer legally say anything. I begin to panic, and my husband is forced to make the decision. As I'm being wheeled out of the room, I feel an urge to push, and I think my midwife knew. As the doors close behind me, she looks at me and mouths the word push. And it dawns on me that she also doesn't trust the doctor. The operating room is cold, sterile, and bright. I begin to ask multiple times if everything is okay. I'm told it's normal to be anxious, so I try to tuck away my fear into that box. And shortly after, all the lights begin to go out around me. At one point, I drift back into the room to feel the chaos as multiple doctors and nurses surround me. I look at a nurse standing over me, and I ask her if I am dying. She tells me to think of my boys, and so their names become my mantra as I drift back off into the waiting place. But not before hearing one of the doctors scream, "Hurry, we're losing her." Time loses all meaning here, but I'm told 12 hours pass, 4 surgeries, and 50 blood transfusions. And though I'm given less than a 10% chance of surviving, and they are preparing my husband for the worst case scenario, it was as if a switch went off within me as I was awaiting my fate. Like spirit went in and turned on all the lights, busting open that box that I had safely tucked away for so long. It's only 6 hours after my last surgery when I come to. I don't know what has happened. I haven't had a chance to hold my baby, and he's not even allowed in the ICU room with me. I can barely move. I'm so pinned down by tubes. I can't open my eyes, but I can hear the chaos around me. I can't speak because I'm intubated. Yet something inside of me tells me to do this sign language, to tell those around me to feed my baby milk. I immediately recognize the touch of my mother's hand, and I'm vaguely aware of how much time must have passed in order for her to be there because she lives far away from me. I trace the words, "I love you," on her hand. And as I hear the nurses gather around me, I remember the mantra they gave me, and I sign thank you to them for saving my life. It's the day after my surgeries. I can now talk and open my eyes. I'm still pinned down in the ICU bed, chaos surrounding me, and nothing more than sheer curtains separating me from the others. I look over to see my husband, who's sitting next to me. And the first thing I say to him is not what happened, but instead I look him directly in the eyes and I say, "I'm going to help others with this story one day." And though neither of us knows exactly what that means, he just smiles and nods, and he chooses to believe in me. In the months that followed, I would slowly build the strength to walk again, take a shower on my own, and simply just hold my baby while standing. As the months turned to years, I would see a number of specialists, undergo dozens of tests, and eventually be given multiple health diagnoses. I would stumble and fall broken on the floor more times than I can count, and I would even consider giving up. But something inside of me kept going. Despite doctors looking at me like a puzzle that they could not fix over the years, I decided to believe in my body's ability to heal. I flowed from one healing modality to the next over the years, finding meditation, yoga, energy healing, various types of therapy. In 2019, I had my first experience with shamanic healing and would be floored by the impact it would have on me. I would shed layers of heaviness that I had carried for years. I would reconnect and accept my most authentic spiritual self. And I would develop a deeper connection to my ancestors. Eventually, I decided to take my training in shamanism, and I tiptoed in. I was terrified. It was not something I ever thought that I would do, yet every part of this training felt like coming home. This is when my grandmother would begin to show up. At first wearing very plain clothes, as she often did, telling me it was in order to fit in. And eventually, as I kept going with this training, she would begin to come forward in brighter, multicolored, ceremonial wear, as if to reclaim who she really was. So I dug into her ancestry in Poland, only to find out that my ancestors were also shamanic healers. The female healers called Polish whisperers because they used their connection to spirit in order to help others find healing too. At some point, it obviously became unsafe for her to do this, so she fled to France and then later Canada. Like me, she was afraid, and she would stuff everything away tightly into that same box. I lost my womb that fateful day, the very thing that defined me as a woman, a space of creation where I grew my 2 amazing boys. Energetically, this space connects us to our grandmothers and to our intuition. For some reason, it took me losing this physical space for me to stop second-guessing it, fearing it, or stuffing it into the box. My healing journey quickly became this reclamation of the very thing that makes every single one of us women out there: our intuition, our connection to our ancestors, the divine, and the earth itself. As I allowed this connection to expand and grow, I felt called to create a vision board in 2020. And one photo was a woman standing on stage sharing her story, which I clearly put on hold for 5 years until last June, when my son took the stage like this to address his graduating class. His bravery, as I watched him, reminded me of the promise that I made to my husband that day. And once I remembered, well, my grandmother would begin to weave it together. It's actually just days before my birthday, which I shared with her. And I am standing here on this stage sharing the story of how my rebirth became a reclamation for her and our ancestors too. She would guide me here in the most magical ways. And I'm standing in a church, of all places. This year's event is in a church surrounded by cedars, large windows on either side of us with the light pouring in. All of those times we went to church together, I think she saw the way that Spirit moved me, and we made a pact to do this healing together. And during that fateful day in the waiting place, she was the one I saw. It was her that helped me to bust that box open for us, for our ancestors, and for all of the women out there who have ever been afraid of their magic, who ever had to hide their truth, run from it, or keep their voices quiet. No more. When one of us heals as women, we all heal. So we busted that box open, and we let the kaleidoscope of light in. And I don't know about you, but I think it's about time that we use that light to burn it all down to the ground in order to set every single one of us free.